welcome to another episode of From There to Here. I'm your host, Lawrence Temple. And where on this show we follow people, they take us on a journey on their professional, personal, just their life journey. And we always pick up some gems that we can take for our own lives while we're learning about our guest. So our guest today is Phebe Fuqua. Now, I think everyone says their last name the way they want to.
Okay,
Fuqua. How should we say it?
that Fuquay is fine.
Okay. I've heard people even argue about that. All right, Phebe Fuqua, and I'm going to have her talk as we go along about the many faceted things going on in her life. She's a business owner, a community activist, and a whole lot more. And there's some things that we're all going to learn as we go on this journey with her. So, Miss Phebe, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honor to be
A-
on your show.
Absolutely. You're one of the first people that I thought about with the inception of the show. It's only a few months old, so I'm glad we had this chance. Well, I told you that there was one question I would tell you in advance I was going to ask you, and it's this one. What would be your elevator speech? And for those who don't know the term, that means, let's say you're on an elevator and you're only on there a few seconds with anybody else. So if you had to boil down who you were in just a few seconds description, what would you say?
Okay, so I would say I am a business strategist, a political strategist, a motivational and inspirational speaker, and I'm also a survivor. I've had a lot of challenges in life, but I have overcome all of them, and I'm also a mom of three beautiful children.
Okay,
Yes.
that's excellent. That's a mouthful. And each label or hat that you gave me could be its own 30, 60-minute broadcast alone. But we're going to do what we can to get bits and pieces of all those things. Let me ask you this. Let's go back to Phebe at 17. You're a junior in high school, around a time that maybe we're thinking about life after high school. How similar is your life today to what you would have imagined in the 11th grade?
So at 17, I was a senior in high
Okay,
school.
that's
My
right.
birthday was early, yeah.
I knew that. That's right. Okay.
So 17, um, I my life, you're saying how I'm sorry, could you say one more time my
Yeah.
life, how it was?
Take a think of your life today. How
Hmm.
similar is your life today to how you thought it would have been when you were a 17-year-old looking at the future?
It's totally different compared to what I thought. When I was 17, I actually wanted to do some of the things that I'm doing now, but I didn't. I always saw myself either in corporate America doing it for a longer period of time.
Okay.
So, and more so doing the architecture engineering side of everything because that was one of my degrees.
Okay.
Um, didn't see myself totally in an entrepreneur side. I was more so, I would have probably seen myself at 17, looking at it now, I would have been like, oh yeah, corporate America, thriving and doing that.
Hmm.
But I had a little taste of corporate America, but jumped straight into the entrepreneur side.
Okay.
And it's a little bit different of how I would have seen myself, even on the personal side, totally different than what I would have expected.
I
Yeah.
see that. Okay. And that's
Yeah.
most of the people I talk to, that's the case. They thought something real different than how life actually went. What about several other people on the show have been entrepreneurs? Can you tell us about your entrepreneurial journey? What made you want to or think that you could be your own business person and how you got into that direction?
Okay. So it's a little bit of several things. Being in corporate, on the corporate side, a lot of things I did not like. I don't like to be in a box. I don't
Okay.
like to be restricted to you only can do it this status quo way. There's no way to do, other things. Um, and I also, life happened to me, health challenges. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, diagnosed with breast cancer. So that put me at a pause in my career because time off, trying to heal and live, a lot of things shifted. During the last year that I was working on the corporate side, so I worked for corporate companies and I also worked for the state and government. So I was in a little box and I was taking a lot of time out. And at that time, my last year of being on that side, I started a company and I was like, I'm just going to do some things on the side because I need some extra money. I'm going to use these skill sets and just, dibble and dabble.
Okay.
Well, when the health really, really took a big toll in my life, I was out of work. And I was like, the dibble and dabble has to be the main focus. So I literally took everything I was telling clients and I applied it to myself, which is very hard to do because it's always easy to help someone else. And I found it more challenging to help myself and motivate myself. And I did that because I had to remember this is a survival mode. I can't necessarily go to work because I'm going to the doctor 4 or 5 times out the week and I can't request off. So this is my life and I have to put all of my energy in it. And that's what I did. So starting a business wasn't like a typical person, like, oh, I have this great dream. I did, but it was on survival mode. That's why I went so hard.
I didn't see. I didn't know that. Now you've mentioned several business endeavors and things. So, what business particularly are you referring to when you're talking about this one where you made this leap?
Okay, so the business development side. So I created my company. My main company is Elite Eagle Developments. And at that time, I only was doing business development. That's all I focused on. I did business development, nonprofit development, helping companies develop strategic plans, coaching them through grant writing, all of that stuff. That's all that I focused on, helping them from the startups. And then as the years progressed and I put more energy in it, and I was like, oh, I know how to do this, and that. So I expanded the company so it does a lot more now than what it did before.
See, was there had you seen someone else do this business? Like, what was the model, I guess, that you looked at going into doing what you do, or was there no model?
That's a good question. So what I did was I looked at what I use from the corporate side because corporate America that's why they're thriving. They had a lot of good resources, but I wanted to make it more customized.
Okay.
So I did research throughout. I searched the internet to see if different companies offered what I wanted to see in my own company.
Okay.
It was always missing something, the personal touch. It was very cookie cutter.
Mm.
And my company is customized to the client because everybody's different. I treat it like a medical office because I've literally lived with all kind of medical things. So I look at it as a specialty doctor. So if you go to like an oncologist or a cardiologist, or a hematologist, they're looking at your case based off of your blood work, your scans. If you go to a neurologist, they're looking at your brain, not anybody else. Of course, they're going to go off of case studies. And what I did was I customized clients, their contracts and their strategic plans based off of their needs. And then I'll do feasibility reports and based off of different experiences with other customers.
Mm-hmm.
They throw those nuggets and life experiences in there to further enhance them. But it's not, oh, you want this, you want to start up a company? Is this? No, it's nothing is cookie cutter when it comes to me. And that's something that I found that was different. And I put a personal touch and I'm more of an accountability person as well when it comes to that.
Okay.
So that's the difference that I saw as far as with other companies and the model that I put in my company.
I get that. Is in talking about the business aspect and being your own boss type of thing, I asked my last customer, my last guest this, who has their own business in Ormond. People, when you say going into your own business, I'm sure people have these misconceptions that they think it just means nobody tell me what to do. I like that. But can you tell me What I asked my last guest, can you tell me what's something great about being your own boss and what's something difficult about it that people don't realize?
Well, first things first, the misconception of having your own company, you're not laid out on the beach all the time. You have to work longer hours,
Okay.
and you are the one that is pushing the company harder than anybody else if you truly have a passion for it.
Okay.
One of the most rewarding things that I found is I'm helping lives, transform lives because of what I do. I have sensitive information, and people trust me to take something that God placed inside of them and make it come to life.
Wow.
So I find that rewarding. I work a lot of hours, but I've learned that I have the power and capability to form my own schedule. So if I work a lot of hours and that's me, I have to reevaluate. Wait a minute, I spent 12 hours today.
Mm.
What did I do different than I did the previous time? Or why am I spending so much time on this particular project? What's
Okay.
different? So, and it takes discipline. You have to really be okay that and understand my mindset is yes, I own Elite Eagle Developments. I
Okay.
own my other companies, but I also work for them. So I work for the company. So I continue to humble myself daily. Like, even though this is my company, but I treat it as if I'm working for the company. I even pay myself. Like, I can't just pull. I'm disciplined. I have to wait. And
Okay.
it I literally put it in the system and I direct deposit and I get excited just like anybody else get excited when that
Okay.
check hits. It's just because that allows me to solely focus on my position and my role versus I'm the boss. I can do this. I can pull when I want. I
Hmm.
can go in and out. Oh, I don't feel like going to work. No, I get up, I get dressed, and I like to get dressed up. So I'll get dressed up in my professional attire
Okay.
and go. So if I'm working remote or if I'm going to the office, it's the same thing. Even if I'm working from home, I will get dressed up, go to my home office.
Wow.
And this is because when you have that mindset, I literally condition my mind, you're in work mode.
Okay.
I transfer my whole everything. I transition. And then when it's time, when it's just because I'm working from home and working remote or going to the office, I have to condition myself. This is the hours where I'm cutting it off. I
Okay.
literally put myself on that schedule. And the reason why I'm so strict about it, because in the previous years,
Mm-hmm.
I was a yes person working 2 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock. No, I
Okay.
was drained. So I have to condition myself. And that's one thing. I know that was a weighted answer, but it's
No.
literally one thing that I find being a owner of your company, you're able to navigate your own ship. And if
Okay.
you don't navigate your ship correctly, it's going to sink. And you have to be able to, discipline yourself and set a schedule that's consistent. So, yeah.
No, that's an eye-opening answer. I love that. That were have there been times, because I've always heard that the entrepreneurial journey is not without its ups and downs and the economy and all that. Were there times that you were tempted to chuck it all and say, I don't need all this responsibility. Let me just go work for somebody else? Were you, tell me about that part.
Of course, those are times, oh man, I've had several moments where, trying to get things started up. And I'm like, did God really tell me to do this? Because
Hmm.
I see nothing coming in, like the Whitney Houston song, I have nothing coming. And I
Just heard
was
that the
like,
other day. Okay.
I was like so frustrated. And I was like, no, I have to keep going. Then there were times where I was making great money. I was able to pay staff. And
Hmm.
that's one thing when you have staff and you get to a moment where it's low and you don't have funds and you have to make a decision. Are you going to pay your staff or are you going to pay yourself?
Okay.
And that's one of those times, several times where I had to say, you know what? I have to pay staff. And
Okay.
they can't, no, you can't. It's like being a parent. the parents, and I know a lot of parents have experienced where times were hard. Your children probably think you're super rich. And you're like, man, I'm just trying to figure out how to pay the
Wow.
bills.
Okay.
And that's the same thing when it comes to having staff in a company. Sometimes it's like that. I can't come to my staff and say, I don't know how I'm gonna pay y'all. Look at me like I'm crazy.
Okay.
So those were highs and lows. There were times where I said, you know what? I'm tired of these clients, because clients will make you highly upset as well. Just expectations. Sometimes you have those clients who are just like, man, is this worth it? I will go get a job. It's less stressful. I don't have to worry about all the responsibilities, all of the extra expenses. I'll just get a job and I'll be a great employee because I know what the boss needs. I've thought about that.
Okay.
Those are highs and lows, but at the same time, I had to remember and go back to the why. Why did I start this company? And I always lean on, if God gave the vision, he'll make the provisions. And you're going to have highs and lows. That's in companies, because I tell clients all the time, I try to encourage them. It goes back to me encouraging myself. You have highs and lows. You just have to have some type of backup plan. And I also want to say, even if somebody's listening where they might feel like, oh man, I have to get a job and I still want to keep the company, it's okay. It is what it is. If you have to get a part-time job just to make it doesn't make you less than a person or less than an entrepreneur, because I've had to do that too. I've had to get a job, get a remote job or whatever, just being transparent to make ends meet, because parts of the year it's low. You can, make a lot of money and then sometimes it drops and you're like, oof, don't stop. Don't stop dreaming. Don't stop thriving. It's okay to get a job. Just you change your mindset. It's just another client that you're servicing your skills. That's all. That's literally what I had to tell myself, because I got really low at one point and like, I need money. And then I'm like, man, I got to get a job. And the Lord was like, that's just another client that's hiring your skill set. Change your mindset. I'm like, you're right. Yes. And that's literally how I would maneuver through those challenges. It
seems like so much of what you're saying relates to mindset and how you look, how two people look at the same thing, and one person looks at it in a way that causes them to overcome, and the other person looks at it wrong, and it sinks their ship. Just as you said.
Yeah, I have this saying: life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. It's just 10%. It's so little. If you need a job, or this is not happening, it's 10%. Now that 90%, how are you going to transform your mind and deal with the situation? I have that on my phone. I have it on my mirror in my bathroom. I have it everywhere. That's embedded in, that's a part of my being. That's a part of my pathology, that quote. Because if not, I would have lost my mind. Because life, stuff thrown at you and you highs and lows, you'll just feel discouraged. But if you know it's just 10% and it's temporary, it's all about how you handle that 90%.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how I have to function.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
What is this? This is Thursday. I feel like I'm in church. This is some good stuff you're throwing out here.
That's literally, that's how my mind is.
Well, then speaking of that, now, and you talk about this as much or as little as you like. You mentioned that you had health challenges. You mentioned that you dealt with a MS situation and cancer situations. This is too big of a question, the simple way I'm asking it, but how have you dealt with these diagnoses and still done? Because, for example, if someone sees you on social media, they see you doing business things, they see you going to business events, they see you looking like you're in perfect health, never had a problem, life has been easy. That's how you make it look. How have you handled the medical challenges you've been dealt?
That's a good question. Goes back to the life is 10% of what happens and 90% of how you react to it. I had several people come up to me and was like, do you really have MS? Did you really have, because I think you lying. I was like, well, sweetie. And if it was a female, I've gotten to the point where somebody was like going off on me, telling me I was a lie. I said, oh, sweetie, come here. I took her to the corner. I lifted up my shirt and I was like, I'm not lying. And she was like, oh. I said, I'm just wanting to shut you up for a minute because I'm not like, this is real. And she was like, oh, and I had to tell somebody else, I said, listen, I literally had drains one day from a surgery. I was like, oh, no. I pulled up. I said, you see this? I was like, oh. I was like, I have to keep going. God gave me life. And that's one thing I told God. I was like, I can't die. Like, I don't want to die. I beg God. I had 2019, April of 2019, I had to have a surgery. And I felt so sick. I was like, I think I'm dying. And I literally was dying. Didn't even know the extent of it. At the time, because I was dealing with the breast cancer, like having it come back, and then I had implants. And just to let you know how God works, the implants did a bad reaction to my body. Like it rejected it. Having MS, having an autoimmune disease, certain things you just can't do. Okay. So the doctor was like, okay, we have to have the surgery. Something is off, not right. He didn't know it was that bad. And then 2 days before, my son was like, Mommy, the youngest one, Hezekiah, he's like, you're going to die. Now, anytime Hezekiah talks, everybody's like, whoa, because God talks through him and it's like, dang, Hezzy, I'm going to die? Like, oh, no. So I petitioned to the Lord. I'm like, oh. But then the day before I left, he was like, oh, you're not going to die. Just something choking you. And I was like, choking me? They opened me up and they said I had infection from my collarbone to the bottom of my ribs. And it was malignant cells through my bloodstreams. And I was like, oh, that's what Hezekiah was seeing, as if something was choking me. Everything was like up to here. All kind of infection. It was just built up fluid. It was just a mess. And the doctor was like, the surgeon said, if you didn't come in time, you would have been dead. Wow. But being that all this stuff is through your bloodstreams, everything in my body started to shut down. April 19. He said that you're going to maybe live into August of 19, but you're surely going to die in 19. I was like, huh? 2019. So I literally had months to prepare my family. Wow. And I say all this because I kept going. I was thriving the most in 19. I was like, I'm about to do everything I can. And I keep going with death diagnosis. People will still see me moving, going around. I would just finish treatment, weak, but I still would keep going because I would have Zoom calls and I'm like, I can't show my face. I'm just, in a bad situation in the hospital bed, handling business on the phone because I was still breathing and living. When we had the watch service in 19, that's leading up to 2020. When I saw 12 o'clock hit and everybody was like, Happy New Year, I was done. I was like rejoicing and just like, doctors told me I couldn't make it. And I just lived that way because every moment that I have that I can breathe and live, Miles Monroe said something years ago, I want to die empty. Yeah. We are so full with so much stuff. I want to rob the grave. And that's how I live. So when people see me, they see me going and doing different things. I'm literally chasing everything that I desire or think I can do. If somebody says, hey, I see you here. Okay, well, that's a good idea. And I'm just going to just go hard. I go hard because I'm breathing, I'm functioning. Doctors told me I never will be able to walk, talk, function because MS, I have the worst form of MS where it affects not only my cognitive and motor skills, but also my organs. So it's like having a Charlie horse all over your body, your pains and all this different stuff. I speak to my body. I'm like, I have to move on. So in the midst of owning my own company, doing so much career stuff, yes, health challenges, there are sometimes I can't function. But one thing I do is I speak over my body. If my body locks up, I'm like, not today, legs. I need you to cooperate. And I just I literally talk to my body like that. People who are around me, they're like, they know eventually like, oh, okay, Phebe just talking to her body. Okay. I have to command my body to move and function. And the doctors even was like, how are you? Are you okay? I have trauma care and terminal nurses calling And I'm like, terminal illnesses, the insurance company. I didn't even know that existed until I was on that death diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
They call, how are you doing? Are you okay? Are you sad? I'm not sad, but I think I'm about to be sad because you're calling. I have to always change my mindset.
Okay.
That's how I'm able to keep moving and keep functioning through life. So, and I feel like that's how God shines through me, because if people are dealing with certain things in their life, and if, you know, tragic people get tragic news all the time,
Okay.
I just keep going. And that's just the living testimony of what you can overcome. It's not easy. Sometimes
Okay.
it's hard. I just have to have accountability people around me. So my friends, I'm very particular about who's in my space. So if I let anybody in my space, they have to, if I'm having a weak moment,
Yes.
remind me of who I am and who I belong to and what I'm capable of. Don't be like, oh yeah, girl, I know you probably are hurting. Oh
Mm.
no,
Mm.
no, they get hung up on or they get dismissed as a friend.
Okay.
Like, I have to have that network of people. So that's a long way to answer your question, but that's
Mm-mm.
literally how I'm able to keep going and thriving in the midst of that journey of different things that I've accomplished in life or still trying to accomplish. People ask because sometimes things are evident. They're like, "Oh, you all right? You almost
Yeah.
fell." Like, yeah, I was diagnosed with MS, so sometimes I'm balanced off. It's okay. One lady grabbed my hand, was like, "You're nervous, baby. You're nervous," because sometimes the tremors would come. So I'd be like
Okay.
this, and you're nervous. Oh, you scared. No, ma'am. I have MS. I was diagnosed with MS, so sometimes it tremors, but I'll be okay in a sec. I just got to get myself together. They'd be like, what? And then after I do it, then they come back and say, what now? And then I'll be able to explain and let them know that God is He's healing me and
Mm.
you're watching the healing take place. That's literally how I function when it comes to that. Yeah.
That is, and you know, my wife and I have had a chance to observe just from a distance some of what you're talking about, and it's pretty amazing to watch. As a matter of fact, I have a young relative who recently got a MS diagnosis. I'm going to share some of your
Mhm.
perspectives with her. That's just amazing. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to make you a pretend counselor for a moment and pretend. Let's
Okay.
say a young woman is brought to you. I ask this a lot of my guests. Let's say you have a friend and they have a daughter who's 18, 19, something like that, and they are at that point of getting out of high school, trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. And oh, good. Let me get this something off my screen. And
Mhm.
your friend brings their daughter to you because they said, listen, it seems like you have a lot of good things going on in your life. My daughter's a good kid, good grades in school, about to graduate. They're just not sure what they want to do with their life. And I'd like you to talk to them as someone who's doing some things. And so they bring their daughter Sally to you and you go out to lunch. What kind of things do you feel you would say to Sally to help her in that situation?
Oh, okay. Well, first things first, I'll let her know that it's okay to not know. It's okay. But what I will like to know is, what are you passionate about? What makes you happy? And it's okay if it's nothing that your parents want you to do. They're not you. They're not living your life. And I would tell her, hey, if I, truth be told, my parents wanted me to do something else. And
Yeah.
just, I was that child that said, no, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
And they coached me through that process. So I would just tell her, hey, what makes you happy? What is it that makes you happy? And keep in mind, it's okay, because there's a lot of people who die not knowing what they want, but I want to help you find out what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
then, she'll tell me, whatever it is that she feels passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll give her some tools or maybe some advice on how to accomplish what she feels happy about. Because you can do and make a career out of anything.
Okay.
So I'll reassure her that.
Good point. And
Yeah.
now another person comes. Let's say they're not the kid. There's someone your age or they could be between that 18, 19-year age to your age or older. It doesn't matter. They're a person that watches you and they haven't seen this interview, so they just see the successful things you've done, and they say, "Boy, I wish I could be like you," but, and then they give you a 5-minute list of can'ts. They don't have money. Their family is the family that where everyone always goes to jail. They had kids young. You know, all of the things that really do slow people up in life. They give you this list of why they can't be what they want to be. What would you share with that person to help them on their way?
I would tell them I'll hit that life is 10%, 90% quote. I'll, go with that and just tell them it's okay. Everybody has challenges. Everybody family has some family that's all crazy. Cause I have family members that I'm like, ooh, all right. We all do.
Okay.
We all have life challenges that happen. But how hungry are you? Are you really hungry? Do you really want it? Because if you really, really want something, you'll make a way. Just like
Hmm.
people don't have money, but they find money to go out to eat. Like you
Ooh,
find a way if you want to do something. So
okay.
that's what I was saying. Like, how hungry are you? Like, are you hungry enough to do it? And if you are, hey, who's your accountability person? You don't have anybody? I'll be your I'll be your accountability person for the next
Okay.
30 days. If you want somebody for real, but just be prepared. I'm gonna really be on you. That's how I am, because I would want somebody to do that to me.
Okay.
That's what I would tell them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And you use some strong words. You use the word hungry. How hungry are you? There's so
Yeah.
many levels to that's so intense, like the level of your desire. And do you
Mm.
really want it? I think we often say what we want, but maybe we don't really want it. That's really strong.
Right. To put some
Two
work
last questions.
to it.
One, I want to go back to something you mentioned before. Can you talk again or some more about the power of who's in your circle, and
Mm.
and even about maybe the necessity to change, or I hate this phrase, but cut off people. Can you talk about that as it relates to your life, health, career, faith, fill in the blank?
Ooh, that's a whole series now. For
I'm
real.
sure.
It's important. In short, it's very important. I had to cut friends off. And I did it like you would cut a significant other off, based off of where I'm going in life. This is literally how I said it. I was like, I love you as a person, as a friend, but where I'm going in life, we can't be on the same, level.
Mm,
I can't keep depending on you when I can't depend on you. And you can no longer drain me because you don't see where I'm going. Your mindset is different. So it's okay. I'm gonna love you from a distance, but keep in mind, I'm not going to communicate. I'm not hanging out with you anymore. I
wow.
can't do that because I'm trying to go somewhere. And it hurt. It
Mm,
hurt me and it hurt them. But now they're starting to see. I've had some of the people be like, oh, I see what you mean now. I see. And it's so important to have people around. I have a handful of people. And I'm not the type where there's no new friends. No, because where
yeah.
God is taking me, I'm going to have new friends. I'm going to have new people in my circle. I'm never cutting stuff off like that. It's just the people who are in my circle right now have been there and they know how I am. We are each other's accountability people. Even when it comes to health, there are still people in my family. When I'm sick, it's only a couple people that can come to my hospital bed
Okay.
and be there with me because I need somebody to pour life into me. I don't need you to be like, ooh, I need you to, if you say who, don't say it in front of me.
Oh,
Just turn your back and then just get yourself together and pour life, because
yeah.
at this moment I'm going downhill. And then even when it comes to significant other, like I'm very particular. I'll cut somebody off in a minute. Like,
Okay.
no, like it has to be God sent. And that's where I am even in that area. Like it has to be very strong. And that's what I'm blessed to have. And then even with friends,
Mm,
family, everybody have to hold me accountable. And it's okay to cut people off. Kindly cut people off.
okay.
You don't have to be rude. It just says, listen, I'm going somewhere. And if you're not going with me, I have to keep you here. I'm gonna love you from here and just keep it moving. It's the same. My peace is non-negotiable. That's literally how it's non-negotiable. I can't even negotiate on that. My peace is non-negotiable. my bags are non-negotiable
Mm.
as far as with money and goals.
Yeah.
And my friends are not, like, I can't have people in my life who aren't for me. It's toxic. And why
Yes.
would you do that? Why would you drink bleach? Like, it's not good for you.
Goodness.
Why? You thirsty? That thirsty?
Okay. These phrases
You
you
know
keep
what I
saying.
mean? Like, I'm very particular about that. So yeah.
When you said my peace is non-negotiable, I might make that the tagline for this episode because that is
Yeah.
extremely powerful. The way you said that. Um,
Hmm.
all right, I have 2 minutes left. I have just enough time for this last question. You
Okay.
weaved this all through the interview, but just say it more explicitly. Can you talk about how your faith has been an anchor, or what role your faith plays in your life, your health, your work, and all of the above?
100%. And I don't take it lightly. Some people say, "Oh, I have faith," and it's so cliche. I really have faith. Like,
Okay.
every day is a faith walk for me. I have faith that I'm continuing to walk in the manifestation of my healing. I have faith that if I don't see where my ends are going to meet, I know God is my source. And
Mm.
I literally remind God, like, "Hello, you gave me this vision, didn't
Mm.
ask for it. So I need you to come through because I don't want you to look crazy. Let's go. I'm telling everybody that you did this for me, and I don't want you to look crazy. And I know you don't want to look crazy. That's literally how I talk to the Lord. And
Okay.
my faith is elevated to the point where if the doctors tell me, okay, like recently, about a month ago in August, doctors was like, "This doesn't look good. You have some new findings on your brain." Oh, all right. I did get in a little funk, but I was like, you have to remember who my source is. Okay.
Okay.
And did a treatment. Everything was fine. The doctor was like, "I just think you're stressed." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's what it is." And couldn't find anything. I
Okay.
told God, you have to heal it really quickly. Like, I have to keep functioning. I have too much inside of me. I can't die full. I have to die
Yeah.
empty. Lord, get it together. And
Uh,
then it just literally, the doctors was like, "You're stressed. That's it. Nothing,
wow.
we can't find anything wrong." So my faith is so high that I'm like, okay, that's how I function. Like, God got it.